Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Threezero Ultraman figure unboxing and review video. Now today we are going to be taking a look at the Ace suit based off the Netflix series. Now this is the third suit that I personally needed to complete my Netflix trinity. All three suits lined up in the display. I can't wait to see what they look like standing side by side. Now I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon so you're notified as soon as a brand new review goes live on the channel. What we are going to do now though is get the box laying flat in the light box and do the unboxing. Here of course we have the box art, and it's done in the usual Threezero Ultraman style. Ultraman up top, an image of Ace from the Netflix series on the front of the box. Ultraman on the side, another image of him in a silhouetted fashion on the back, and if you flip open the front cover, you do get a sneak preview of the figure inside. Plus, you guessed it, another Ultraman logo. I do like that they are keeping the theme consistent between all of the boxes. That means if you do like displaying your boxes behind your figures, it's not going to look out of place. Now, I personally did like Ace's story in the series. I don't know a ton about Ultraman aside from the Netflix show, but I'm still really happy to have this guy in hand. As I said in the intro, he's the third and final one I needed to complete the core team from Season 1. What we are going to do now though is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Here we have all the parts and pieces. Now unfortunately he doesn't come with the display base, but he does come with a very large energy effect. It's the one that he's pictured with on the front of the box, so I'm very happy that Threezero decided to include this. Otherwise it might have been a little bit awkward that they decided to picture it on the package but not throw it in with the figure. The sculpt is very impressive. As I said, it's rather large. It's jagged at one end and it's more smooth on the other. I also like the color. It's this greenish yellow and it's definitely going to pop in the display. It does just peg into his gauntlets and his wrist peg, and you will see that a little bit later on. You also get his hand cannon, which is meant to be his forearm that's morphed into this weapon, a nice blue section around the front, and then some wire detail sculpted in underneath. You also get these spine sections that do peg into the backside of his gauntlets that are meant to be used with that energy effect. All of these pieces are a little bit more rubbery, so you shouldn't have to worry about breakage. Now, in conjunction with those, you also get these wrist peg extension pieces. They basically extend the hand out just a little so that the armor pieces on the hands don't collide with these spikes. And then lastly, you also get his thruster attachments. These, I think, could have been done and integrated into the body rather than being swap out pieces, but we'll discuss that when we get to the figure himself. We do get a full array of hands. They are fully sculpted with a ton of rubberized texture on the inside with all of this ribbing, and then some bright chrome silver on the outside. And yes, it is very metallic. What we are going to do now though is get Ace himself out here and take a closer look. Here we have him standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. And for the most part, this guy is bang on to the animation, which makes me very happy. As a huge fan of the Netflix series, this guy speaks to me. He was one of my favorite characters from Season 1, so I'm super happy to have him in 1/6 scale. Does that mean the figure himself is perfect though? No, I don't think he is. There are a couple of things which leave me scratching my head, but at the same time they have made some changes and improvements compared to the other Ultraman figures. He's a little bit smaller, he's lankier, but the proportions do still look bang on, as I said, to the animation. What we are going to do now though is take him off the rotating turntable, punch in and take a closer look At the details, here we have him up close and personal. Now, one of the more interesting aspects about Ace for me is the fact that he does have those robotic limbs. We will be trying out the swap out pieces in just a second. Now, starting off with the head sculpt, it's very unique. It kind of looks nothing like any of the other Ultraman helmets, which is why I like it. It kind of reminds me of an owl. You've got the big yellow eyes, the crest up the top, and the little triangle for the beak. I apologize if I've now ruined the helmet for you, but it's just something I noticed. I also like the big fin up the top and all of the details that have been properly panel lined. You also have some lining around the really big and bright yellow lenses. The LEDs are currently turned off, but because Threezero made the conscious effort of painting these in yellow, they actually look like they are turned on. I am very happy that they decided to do this, because 9 times out of 10 those LEDs aren't going to be enabled in the display. This guy will definitely stand out because of those big, bright lenses. Now, one of the more interesting choices was made up here for the shoulder pads. They were done in a way that kind of makes it look completely seamless all the way down. But in doing that, they've added this hinge mechanism, so when you move the arm forward, that illusion is completely broken. I think a slightly better way of doing it would have been to attach the shoulder pads up here at the traps. That way they could have hinged out, but the arm could have moved freely underneath. They could have used almost the exact same mechanism, but just in a slightly different place. Now, the bright silver does extend all the way down, except for a couple of parts on his pants, which we will get to, and he also has this very bright metallic red. Now, it does look great for now. There are certain sections that once again have been made of rubber. I know a lot of people are probably saying, Threezero, why did you do this? And I'm one of them. That means these sections for the belt and up here for the abdomen could potentially fade to a much lighter orange or pink over time, just like we saw with my Shinjiro figure. He was brand new and he was already starting to suffer from it. This guy looks great right now, and I'm hoping Threezero cracked the code of painting this metallic red on rubber, but only time will tell. Now, coming down to the pants, that's literally the best way to describe them, because they are sculpted in a way that actually makes them look like fabric. And they do look almost completely seamless. Now, there are 2 different finishes at play here. You do have the glossy red sections and the bright chrome silver, but also this matte satin material with, as I said, those wrinkles sculpted in. It does a very convincing job of looking like he is wearing armor plates over some silver pants. Either way, I like the way they've done it. Now, coming down to the feet, this is where you're going to see most of the diecast. The feet do feel cold to the touch. That means he is suitably sturdy when he's standing in the display. You also have a ton of sculpted in detail down below. But for those wondering what he looks like with the various attachments on, now, for the most part, this was relatively easy to do. There was only one part that put up a little bit of a fight, and it was the cannon. Now, when you go to install this, you have to remove the stock forearm and install the cannon in its place. But for some reason, the entire elbow joint came out. I had to sit there and work off the forearm and peg this one in. But once it's there, it looks really good. I do like that translucent section, which matches his chest piece, and you do still maintain most of the articulation. This piece does stick up, but it's a rubbery plastic, so it should get out of the way and not break if you do decide to bend that arm. Now, around the back, we do have the thruster sections. Now, being switch-out pieces is fine, but I do think Threezero could have engineered them in a way where those flaps actually opened up, and this detail was hidden underneath. Again, it still works for me, but it's something that I think they could have done slightly differently. Now, the forearm piece on the other side is replaced by all of these spikes. Once again, rubbery plastic, and as you can see, it doesn't like to sit in there super securely, but once you peg it in, as long as you're not too rough with it, it should stay where you leave it. Now you can remove the extension piece that you have to peg in where his hand goes, and install his beam effect. Now it is designed to only go one way, and that's with this red section facing up. You simply peg it in, and then you can reinstall his hand. Now, yes, it is a very big effect, but it is accurate to the anime. It will take a little bit of futzing to get it to look just right, but I'm glad that Threezero are starting to give us more effect pieces. I would have loved to have seen more with Shinjiro, but getting one here with Ace is definitely a good thing. For those wondering what he looks like with the LEDs turned on, I personally don't think it's 100% necessary. Now, yes, the chest section does light up in a nice vibrant blue, but it already kind of is that same blue, just a little bit darker. The same thing can be said for the eyes. They are currently on and they don't look all that different to how they looked when the LEDs were off. Now, if you are doing some action figure photography and some nice dark moody lighting, then yes, the LEDs will definitely help. But for the most part, I think he looks just as good with them turned off. Now for a quick side-by-side comparison, here we have all three main Ultraman suits from Season 1. And don't they just look awesome standing together? I have been waiting to have these three on the shelf ever since I saw that first season. Now that I finally have them, yeah, I'm pretty darn happy. As you can see, they are all unique molds. That means you're going to have a little bit of height variance, which is always a good thing. Ace is a little bit shorter, as he should be, it's accurate to the show. Ultraman comes in roughly at the middle, and then 7 is the tallest. If I absolutely had to pick a favorite out of these three, I'd probably still go with Ultraman, but Ace and 7 are also no slouch. Just going over articulation. Now bear in mind this is my personal copy of the figure, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm sure when you get yours in hand, you can push the joints slightly further than I am willing to go. Now starting off with the head sculpt, it is on a ball joint at the base of the head, and another at the base of the neck, looking forward and back, swivel and pivot side to side. Now I would advise before moving the arms up to move the shoulder pads out of the way to maximize your range of motion to about there. They will go forward and back, and they are on a butterfly joint, although you don't get a ton of range. They will also hinge up and down. Swivel at the bicep, a double bend at the elbow that does go way past 90, plus a hinge and swivel for the wrist peg. The torso is articulated at the midsection and also at the waist, crunching forward and back, swivel and pivot side to side. The legs will go forward the full way, they will go out to there, so not a ton of range. Swivel at the upper thigh, a double bend at the knee that does go past 90, plus a ball joint down here for the ankle. Just wrapping up on the Threezero Ultraman Ace suit. Now going into this, I was pretty excited. I love the show on Netflix, and this particular design has always spoken to me. It's different, which means it's going to stand out in the display. Am I happy that I now have him in 1/6 scale? Yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't mean he's perfect. Honestly, I would have loved to have seen Threezero ditch the rubber, but unfortunately, it is back again. The entire ab section plus the waist piece is all made of that soft rubber. That means, for now, the red looks great. But over time, it may potentially fade to be a much lighter orange or even pink. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it is something to be aware of. Now you do get a bunch more swap out parts and an awesome effect piece. Usually with these Ultraman figures you get a couple of hands and maybe 1 or 2 weapons. This guy's pretty darn stacked, and I'm really happy to see it because he did have a lot of bits and pieces that could change and switch out in the show. So to get him as accurate as possible, they really did need to include them. Now we can't really conclude the review without addressing the elephant in the room, the lack of a display base. Now this might not bother some of you, but for a high-end 1/6 scale figure, I think it's kind of essential. So please, Threezero, going forward, If you aren't going to package these figures with display bases, at the very least give us an option to purchase them separately. Use the same exact mold over and over again for every figure from Stranger Things to Ultraman, just simply print a different logo on the surface. With that aside though, the figure himself is well worth picking up in my opinion. If you have 7, if you have Shinjiro, this guy is an essential addition to the team. Now I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have 12-month installment plans and a points-based reward system. While you're down there, why not check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection. And of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.